And next up, Miami-Dade College President Eduardo Pedrone. Dr. Padrón has led America's largest institution of higher education for more than 20 years. He's been hailed for creating a culture of access and success at Miami-Dade, which enrolls and graduates more students of color than any other institution in this country. Dr. Padrón is deeply invested in the broader Miami education community, and he's here to talk about that. Dr. Padrón. And please welcome Dr. Pedrone, and welcome back the Atlantic Steve Clemons.
Thank you.
Eduardo, I have to do a little bookkeeping here. That's for Randy. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for being here. Eduardo, I want to read something that President Obama said to you or about you in 2016 when you were awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He said that Dr. Pedrone has built a dream factory for one of our nation's most diverse student bodies, 165,000 students in all. I know it's up to 170, 175,000 now, you know, rounding errors.
Plus or minus.
Yeah, so a small village, yeah. So I just met, I don't know if the mother is in here, but I met 3 little children out in our lobby. I think they were like 1, 3, and 5. Hadassah, is Hadassah's mom here somewhere? I don't know if she's still here, but very, very beautiful children. And I was African-American family, and I was listening to them about what their hopes for these children were. And I think they were here tonight because they want to know what's next after, if they navigate the school system. What is the needles that you're moving to kind of create this dream factory that President Obama talked about?
Well, you know, Miami-Dade College is deeply rooted in this community. There is hardly a household in Miami-Dade County that has not been touched by this institution. We have admitted well over 2.3 million students to the college. It really is an incubator of inclusion. Yes, it is a dream factory in the sense that anyone in this community with a high school diploma can have the opportunity, regardless of his or her condition in life, to come and earn a ticket to prosperity. And that's what we aim to do all the time. This is an institution that basically, as you said before, or Margaret said in the introduction, graduates more Hispanics and African Americans than any other college in America. It's a real microcosm of the community that we serve. It's an institution that the students represent 192 countries, 88 different languages. I don't think you can find a more diverse and more inclusive institution in the United States than Miami-Dade College.
So how are you designed then to fix the problems that are fed to you? I met some young people here in the lobby as well, and they were brought here by a group called the Power U Center for Social Change. And they help students, you know, go to school boards, get active in trying to empower them to have a voice in their own education. These students said that in Miami they go to a school, and their school, because of policing in their district in a majority black school, have no windows. The investment in police, you know, makes it feel like a prison. And these students offered themselves that they felt like many of their associates come out warped, that they don't have the kind of education we're talking about that's neat and clean and pretty on stage. So when those students get to you, how much do you have to undo or redo?
Well, I think that one of the beauties of Miami-Dade College is that somehow the students get a sense of belonging. It's a culture of success where they know that failure is not an option. That's our theme. The students are so engaged in the learning process, and when the students are engaged in the learning process, these are students that are retained, these are students who graduate, these are students that are very respectful to the institution. You walk into any campus of Miami-Dade College, which, by the way, are extremely open, and you don't find any graffiti anywhere, which is a sign that the students respect the institution. The students appreciate the opportunity to be there and to grow. And before, another group was talking about you know, segregation and things like this. If you go into Miami-Dade College, you see students of all kinds working together in the classroom and outside the classroom. And I think that's something that is precious, something that I think is responsible for the success of the institution in achieving, student achievement is high, where the students are able to flourish, to transfer to some of the best universities around the country, and be able to perform at the same level or even better, in spite of the fact that, those students at those other institutions were handpicked on the basis of high GPAs, high test scores. So it's an institution that entire place in Miami is very proud of. By the way, there is no other institution in Miami, in the country, that has had a greater impact in the development of the leadership of the community. From the halls of Congress to the office of this the mayor, the county commission, all these people are Miami-Dade College graduates. The state attorney, the public defender, the chief of police, the chief of fire, the head of the major hospital, the director of the airport, the director of the Port of Miami. Everywhere you go, and in the private sector it's even bigger. When you see the big buildings in downtown Miami, they were either designed or built by architects and engineers that went through Miami-Dade College. But the point that I want to make is that most of these people will tell you, if it had not been because of Miami-Dade College, they would not be where they are today. And that's the beauty of that institution. There is not a more democratic institution in the United States than Miami-Dade College.
So who's the villain in your story? Who's the bad guy? Who's the
Thank you.
Who's the evil one who you see as a barrier to further success? I mean, and I ask that in a serious way, not a facetious way. I mean, I'd like to know why we in the United States and why you folks in Florida are struggling as deeply as we are over some of the DNA that you just sort of naturally talk about as so normal and natural and smart and successful. So who's the enemy of that story?
Well, very often we feel like we're being punished for being successful. And the fact of the matter is that we have a serious problem in terms of those people that are leading the state. There is a tremendous deficit of understanding in terms of what it takes to do what we do. And of course, there are very notable exceptions, but the fact of the matter is that most policymakers today see education as an expense and not as an investment. We have to, at Miami-Dade College today, we have to work with less than half of what the school system has in order to educate every student, less than half. And that makes it very, very difficult for us to maintain the level of quality education that we provide. So the fact of the matter is that we are working against a lot of challenges that are really keeping us from providing the full services that students in this community deserve because of that deficit of understanding in terms of what it takes to do that. And we see that every year, at every moment. We've been getting less and less money every year. Today, we're working with about still $8 million than we had 2 years ago. And that every penny counts when we're trying to really have a very positive reaction to the changes in technology, the world that, the way that we need to train the workforce today to be able to take advantage of the jobs that are being created. Over 2/3 of the new jobs that are being created in the United States today require post-secondary education, as you well know. And unless we provide these students the opportunity to get into college and get that credential, that certificate, that AA degree or that bachelor's degree, these are students that then we're denying a future, we're denying them of the American dream. And that's what we need to realize. And I think part of our problem and challenge is that we need to make sure that every family in this community, every family in this country realize that differently from as recent as 40 or 50 years ago, where most Americans could go into factories and offices with little education and be able to earn a good wage, stay in the job for 30 years, retire with a good pension, buy a home, and really become middle class. Most of the jobs are disappearing. With the advent of technology, we're losing a lot of jobs, but at the same time, we're creating a lot of new jobs that require different skills, that require more preparation, that require more sophistication in the part of workers. And the only way that we are able to do that is with the resources necessary to be able to provide every American kid who comes into the college the opportunity to get those skills. And it's becoming more and more difficult all the time. And I realize that, we're competing with other needs. Healthcare is taking a big chunk of the money, and infrastructure in Florida is going to require a lot of money. So I know there are competing needs. But you cannot continue to see education just as an expense and not as an investment.
I mean, you and I have talked many times in the past about the many different tracks different students have, 4-year students, 2-year students. You have, National Science Foundation grants. I mean, it's amazing. We don't have time for that today, so we're not going to go there, but it's really, really cool. And I also would love to talk to you about your entrepreneurship programs and others, but what I really want to get at before I go to the audience is to ask you a question. We have a lot of people watching online. We have parents that are here with their children. We have teachers in the audience. And I'm interested as a person just beyond the K through 12 system that we're largely talking about today, when I hear people in the education field talk about innovations and the things that they do, oftentimes these are silver bullets. And the challenge to really impacting education is it scalable? Is it replicable? Is it affordable throughout the system? And I'm interested from your perspective, what are the things that you think really help prepare students to succeed when they get to you? What do you want to convey to this audience as 2 or 3 of the most important factors that help create the civically minded superstar that goes to Miami-Dade?
Well, first of all, one of the things that we've been trying to do for the last few years is to create a transition from being a knowledge-centric institution to a platform that promotes creativity and innovation. Because part of the problem that today with the millennials, who are purpose-driven, who are socially engaged, who are tech-savvy, everything that we know and that some of us were part of no longer works. We have to make sure the students are engaged in the learning process. We have to make sure that those students are active participants in learning, that they are not an audience listening to a lecture from the professor, but the fact of, they can have access to many of the new tools that are provided by technology today to be able to move forward. That we have an education that takes advantage of, for example, project-based learnings, where the students are engaged in becoming problem solvers.
And that's what you want these people to do in the K through 12 system.
Well, I think it's important. I think in Miami, to their credit, the school system here is trying a lot of these things, and we work very closely with the superintendent and with the schools. We have 2 schools within Miami-Dade College that we do in conjunction with the school system that are some of the best schools in the nation in terms of what they are doing. And we prepare many of the teachers that go to teach into the school system, thousands of them. We have started some teaching academies within the schools from the 9th grade to start preparing students who want to become teachers and encourage them and really prepare them so they can be the best teachers that you can find anywhere. So we're doing a lot together. The problem is that all this takes money. All this takes resources. If you want to be ahead of the game, you need to be able to have the latest technology. You have to find the best qualified teachers. I have a situation within different fields like nursing, engineering, and so forth. Some of the students who we graduate begin making more money than the teachers who are teaching them. How do you keep that faculty? How do you encourage them when, in fact, we're not able to even pay the market price for the teachers because it's a lot of competition?
I mean, isn't the answer no, you don't keep them?
No, we don't keep them. In many areas, these teachers, and you cannot blame them. You cannot blame them. I mean, people go into teaching because it's the love of teaching, it's the vocation. But they also need to live. They need to be able to support their families. And somehow, in this country, we're in a very disgraceful situation where teachers are no longer underpaid, but underappreciated by some of the same people that should be making sure that they're the most important professionals. They're the ones who teach all the other professionals.
Totally agree. I promised to go to Samantha Daly up here, who's got this really cool white T-shirt on. Run up to her. We're going to try and end this on time so my colleague Jillian can get to the airport as well. So. Samantha, you're on, and I have to tell you how impressed I was by your students that I met in the lobby. Totally impressive, engaged young people. Thank you for bringing them.
Thank you for having us. So my name is Samantha Daly. I'm from the Power Youth Center for Social Change. My question is related Mr. Padrón, in that you work with MD CPS schools, right? That's a lot of the youth that end up going to your Miami-Dade College.
Right.
There was recently an allocation or a request for an allocation for $30 million from Miami-Dade Public Schools. Of that, $10 million would go to 100 school resource officers. 7.8 million goes to mental health, and it's all in the name of keeping schools safe. But we've noticed that, and studies have noticed that disproportionately affects Black and brown youth in terms of over-policing. More police don't always equal more safety for Black and brown youth. So we wanted to see, would you support that allocation of funds? Another 12 million of that budget would go to school readiness in terms of like bulletproof doors or bulletproof glass automatic lock doors. So we just wanted to see your point of view on that.
So thank you, and we're going to end this here, Eduardo, and I would like you to just kind of briefly talk about how you either dismantle or how do you love all your children equally in a system?
How do I what?
Love all your children equally.
Of course I love all my children equally. They are all my children.
Yeah.
And regardless of the age, because one of the things that people do not understand is that we are not only serving the 18 and 19-year-olds. We have a lot of people in their 30s, their 40s, and even 50s who come back to the college all the time to be able to get new skills, to be able to change careers, to be able to get a credential, to a certification, etc. And the beauty is to see the 18, 19, and the people in the other age categories working together and helping each other. Part of the challenge is that how do you convince legislators who are responsible for funding our institution, who, by the way, is becoming more of a private institution than public, because right now less than half of my resources come from the state. And for an institution that is trying to be accessible and affordable by keeping tuition low, we have one of the lowest tuitions in the country, because what people do not realize is that if we raise the tuition today $5 per credit, for many of my students, it's a difference between putting food in the table or going to school. Because we're serving the children of the working class. And in fact, these are the children that we need to protect the most, because they're the most vulnerable, the ones that have the most challenges in getting to school. These are the students that have to work and go to school in order to survive. And most of the people today in decision-making positions fail to understand that. One of the things that you have now today with the issue of the metrics that are being created, which is another way of sending you less money, it's to, for students to graduate, for example, for the AS degree in 2 years. That's impossible for over 70% of my students. You know why? Because they work and go to school. They cannot afford to be full-time, not because they don't want to, just because they have to work. So they're trying to impose rules in the schools, as somebody said before, that do not make any sense. And those are the challenges that we're facing. We're having to spend a lot of time fighting these things instead of working together to build better schools and better colleges.
Well, Samantha, I think we got to a corner of the question. It's a very deep question, profound. Eduardo Pedrone, president of Miami-Dade College, thank you so much for being here, and congratulations for your success.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.